And Cassie here again. How's everybody doing? It is episode 28.
29.
We've entitled this one Know Your Enemy. This is our 6th episode of our 7 days of Christmas. So we're getting close to the end of that.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a good one. I'm really excited. So if you are feeling these energies,
Yeah.
it's been a rough day for those who are feeling this. It's not feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
But we are here to talk about some things that we've been thinking about, and here we go.
Know your enemy. I would like to take it like everybody understands. Know your enemy is the the Rage Against the Machine song, of which we're huge fans of. I want to take it from the perspective of the enemy being yourself, because you only have an enemy. You're creating or manifesting your enemy by either allowing someone to be your enemy or causing someone to be your enemy, or you're doing both. Can you think of an example of somebody that is causing everybody to be his enemy?
The president.
And also allowing at the same time. And that's
well, however, what about the people who don't see him as an enemy? Like,
you're always going to have followers in a cult.
Yeah.
So
the cult of Trump.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is though anyone can prevent an enemy by reciting the mantra during meditation or during walking around. I have no enemy, up until you actually understand. I mean, were we intended to be created to exist and have enemies, or were we created to be one, to work together to build a heaven on earth type scenario? Those are the two paths, and it always goes back to selfish and selfless. And this one's going to tie in all of the rest of the other.
What did you say to me earlier about your?
This one, I had an understanding. That one.
Yeah, the inner thing.
The what?
Not your enemy. It's your.
Oh yeah, I've read that before.
I just thought it was really interesting.
Your inner me.
Not your enemy.
Yeah,
your inner me.
Yeah, your inner me, and
well,
if you have those enemies currently, I think the best way to release them is to face them. And either if you're causing, stop causing, and if you're allowing, stop allowing. The enemy goes away, and you realize it was you that created or manifested that the entire time.
Well, I loved what you said about repeating that mantra of "I have no enemies," especially during walking. You said just like sitting meditation or go walking daily meditation. I've personally done that, and that is such a huge help. You don't realize, because of how much fear mongering that there is in this society, how much you are filled with fear, until you start awakening to it or noticing it. So by doing this mantra, I realized, wow, I'd usually be walking around at night in this neighborhood projecting bad things happening in fear. But switching your mind up to that mantra to focus on positivity and no enemies. Does that make sense? Like, for
Sure.
me, that was just, I thought it was great. I just like that you brought that up.
Yeah, I've said before, the pen is mightier than the sword, and even mightier are thoughts.
Yeah.
Thoughts manifest your reality. If you're walking around in fear of
everything,
those fears will manifest into reality.
You create your own world, and really your world shifts if you are not thinking fearful.
So if you're projecting,
it looks different. It is different.
Projecting what you want instead of projecting your fear.
Yeah, but sorry if that was off.
No,
I just
it's cool. It's a great that one's a great one for everybody. I also I've dug on all of this, but this one today, I had this realization this morning of we talk about indoctrination all the time, but like, how many forms of indoctrination are there? Name them. From sports teams to colleges. I'm saying your kids are coming up. How much gets
religion to
politics?
Political views.
Ford or Chevy. That was a big one when I was little. You're either a Ford man or a Chevy man. I'm serious, and that doesn't. It's.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a lot.
There's so many forms of indoctrination, and you probably, if you're sitting at home watching this and you have one of your own.
I think a big one I see up the most, though, is the college teams or sports teams. Yeah. I mean, decking your infants out
which is cute.
It's cute, but sometimes continues on. I think that you must like this sports team.
What if? Let's take Lazarus for example. We are, the indoctrination process. What if that didn't occur with the child from the moment that they were made into the world up until they were 21 years old? There was zero indoctrination. That child was able to develop their purpose from that with no indoctrination.
Because it is
support.
You believe that it is possible to have no indoctrination, meaning
which would be
is indoctrination. That is something. This just popped in my head. That's something completely different than the environmental learning. You know what I mean? Like just what other people leading by what they do.
Yeah.
Is that complete? Because indoctrination, that's like kind of forcing, right? Is that the definition of it?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say.
Because I was just what your question.
I'm just kind of like,
made me think of was, is it possible to a child to completely grow up unindoctrinated,
right,
without any forced beliefs? I would like to say that it could. It's possible. It's possible.
Just something to think about.
Yeah.
I want to steer right back into. So what I just said was
but yes, imagine a child who had lived like that.
The moment and the reason I wanted to talk about it is because of this. The moment that you attach yourself to a belief system, you have an enemy. It's the opposite of that belief system.
Yeah.
Think about that. So you're instantly creating enemies, and the longer you're in that belief system, you see that a lot with religion. And when I say religion, religions that teach you to hate other religions. That's what I'm referring to. So you've created this enemy, and sometimes it's just those that aren't attached to that belief system.
Yeah.
You see that a lot. I mean, and another way that enemies are created, and I've experienced this personally with my life. The moment you detach yourself from the world sees you as an enemy. Yet, you see the world as you. You follow me there?
Mm-hmm.
So the moment you know, the spiritual path is to detach yourself from, you know, the material world, to explore yourself, to go within. Instead of seeking happiness outwardly, you seek it inwardly. Well, to do that, you have to detach yourself from the material world for a period of time. And the moment that occurs, the world sees you. You've seen it happen to me. You know.
Even the world sees you as a threat.
Yeah, and do you see me
because
as
individuality is a threat?
Yeah.
That's why there's
do
names
you
being
see
made.
me as a threat?
Of course not.
Why do you suppose?
But I have seen others view you as a
view
threat.
me as a threat, and because they've created me into an enemy.
It's the same way people create someone who's not part of their belief system.
Yeah, because they
build it up to be this devil.
The way that I look at it is this:
or demon. They're demons. You know?
Those who know it all, who already have life figured out, are terrified when they understand that I have no idea, nor a belief system that describes to me what life is. I have no idea how. I have no idea. I'm constantly questioning and understanding. They've already figured it out, and because I won't attach on to that specific belief system, they view me as some kind of
weirdo.
Different. Yeah, weirdo. Strange. And you know what I say to that? I'm sorry, but I like being strange. I think that
being strange is the best.
Think about it this way. The Om, the God, the whole is everything and everyone. So the most loony in the world is God. They have a fragment of God inside of them.
Lazarus was laying on his back today, playing with his feet, blowing
making
raspberries, fart noises as loud as he could. And Chris, you looked at him and you're like,
this is divine.
The divine is this goofy.
He's
too.
Yeah, and he's
it's totally okay. That is so acceptable.
Yeah.
And an adult could do that if it made them feel good. However, that is so unacceptable in this society. Like if you saw an adult or saw someone else doing that outside, even a baby, people would frown upon it.
Yeah. I look at it as when you're in a belief system, they set the standard for what you should be.
So it stops your evolution. It stops you from evolving.
Yeah. And so regardless of whatever, there's a norm, and
there's a ceiling.
If you stray either below or above that norm, you're immediately shunned.
Oh yeah. That's really interesting to think about.
Yeah, that's a
and again, this is just based on observations, but if you look at the extreme
extremes, and that's how I've experienced
Well, we became an enemy out there, I think.
Yeah, when we
tried to bring meditation to
a specific area in the South, man, and we were the pioneers of that and were shut down immediately. It was a heavily religious area that didn't want anything to do with it, but it was a great learning lesson. We won an Emmy off of it. Find a positive. This is another fascinating topic. The closer to the source, which is within, the body is the temple, within is the way to go in. So the closer to the source, from the head to the heart, the closer you get to operating with the heart, you have no enemy, because that's the way God views the creation. You see what I'm saying? You understand that everyone is an integral part of creation, therefore you have no enemies. The further you get away from the source and seeking outwardly into the material world, all you have is enemies.
You know what this makes me think of? I was just sitting here thinking of this, and it's that internal enemy that you're talking about, if you notice, a lot of people who vocally share that they dislike or are very against their enemy, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like certain people who are different than them, they call them out. These are topics. I'm thinking of course, the president right now.
Mm-hmm.
He calls out basically what he can't stand, and that's who he is.
And that's exactly who he is.
So it's like when someone, I mean, look through the headlines and you're going to see this. It's like all those homophobic people who are vocally sharing on a global scale how they feel about...
On a public scale.
On a public scale, I mean, excuse me.
Which is globally.
They end up, they're having they're gay themselves, and they're doing lewd acts or whatever it is. So it's just, that made me think of that because it's something relevant in the news.
Yeah.
Sorry if I stumbled over it. I was just trying to think how to word everything. And that struck me for some reason. I was like, wow, because you are a reflection of what you
spout off.
Yeah.
If you're spouting out love, you are love. If you see the divine in everyone, you are divine.
You're spouting out
if
judgment
you
and hate.
Judgment and hate, that's something as a reflection on the inside.
Yeah, of
it's
your
just,
darkness.
It's just how it is. Another way of creating an enemy is the egomaniacal being constantly needs to be fed to support that ego. The ego is always hungry, and it always wants people basically kissing ass. And you see that with groups of egomaniacal beings. They always need their ass kissed. And I've experienced throughout my life, I can't bring myself to kiss anyone's ass. I respect a lot of people in this world, but not to the point to where I need to kiss anybody's ass.
Well, if people live without expectations, you won't have to. There will be no such thing as kicking someone's ass, or kissing someone's ass, because it's like this expectation that person has that you're going to kiss their ass.
Yeah, but those that expect it though, and then when they're expecting it from me, and it doesn't occur, they instantly make you an enemy.
Yeah.
And many examples. But so what I guess I was trying to get out of this whole thing is that your enemies are created within, because you're either allowing or causing, and there's just
I really like this too. Make sure to mention that. I loved when you said that.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting self-observation.
I'm always observing myself and dissecting my pain and understanding why it is, and getting to the bottom of it so I can release it and let it go. And what that does for me is it allows me inner peace. People say define success. Success to me is inner peace, period. My path will bring me abundance. It will bring all the things that I need to deal with the material world. But inner peace to me is success. And what my self-observation has become is that if another individual that I'm in contact with somehow is working on themselves, they're trying to self-improve,
fighting the good fight.
Fighting the good fight. They don't know the only thing they are sure of is that they don't know anything, and that those people, we can be friends. But what I've realized is that people who know it all are very uncomfortable around me.
Well, if you're not self-working, it's very hard to. There's that.
And it's not because I'm not putting out anything different to that person than to someone who's self-working, but they don't even want to be in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that it's
the energy though, because if you're self-working and if we're all energy, to me that's a strong energy. Love is powerful.
It is the most powerful.
It is the most powerful.
Yeah.
So if someone is not operating out of love, their energy frequency going out is not going to be the same as yours. So it's like, to me, I think of bad music notes going. Like
I think of magnets when you turn them the other way.
Yeah, or that.
It's that opposing. It won't jive.
It won't. Yeah.
Disharmony.
And that's what it is, and that's why the world is kind of in this chaotic, because everything is just disharmony. Like everything, nothing, all the energies and frequencies are different.
Which is how.
Because belief systems, all these things that have been put in place.
It's how the universe is created.
And it's beautiful.
Planets collide.
It's
and then all of a sudden they settle down, and and that's where we're headed.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Look at what's happening right now in reflection to the planets. Just like you said, in order to become something beautiful and stable, and it has
chaotic. To begin chaotically crashing.
And it's because everything's energy.
Our moon used to be a chunk of the Earth, but it got hit and therefore broke off and then started orbiting. And we need the moon. Everything happens perfectly in the divine. And so it's a fascinating thing. Keep going.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. I liked everything we've talked about.
Yeah. So enemies.
How does an enemy get manifested into your existence?
You're either creating it, or you're by thinking it, and or you're just being mean, and you're
attracting that negativity.
Yeah, and so what you're giving off, you're receiving. Therefore, I had an instance recently with someone who was trying to provoke, and like we discussed all the time, I'm like, You refuse the anger, and that anger sits with them until it breaks them, and you go on about your merry way. So it's a fascinating thing. I don't have any enemies, and you can view me as an enemy all you want, but I'm refusing to accept it.
To accept your anger.
Yeah. Fear, hate, anger. It all begins with fear. And then it turns into then to hate, and then they're wanting you to pick up your sword, and when you don't pick up the sword, they end up doing that. But I just enemies know your enemy. You are your own enemy, and I think the more and more you turn inward and go inward, the more and more, or the less and less of your enemies will just start to drop off. And then once that occurs, you're closer to inner peace, and you continue traveling until as far as you want.
And that just reminds me too. It's that whole be kind to you.
Yeah.
It's something important, I think, to remind yourself on a daily basis, because you really are. When any minute you're mean to yourself, you're creating that enemy with yourself.
Yeah.
So it's, be kind to you, and then your world will reflect that around you.
I got a visual. If you're far enough away from yourself, that's when you're creating your enemies. So the further away you are from yourself, you can create that enemy with your other self, and the more you're more you're one.
The more you know and love yourself, and accept and learn.
Yeah. More that you have compassion for being a dumbass.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it comes down to.
You understand that your stumbles and everything here is for a reason, and so it's cool. You have to
forgive
yourself.
Forgive yourself.
Self-forgiveness.
Yeah.
That's so. We talked about that too this week.
Self-love, man, and that.
It's a tough one.
It's super tough, and it's also super tough to love somebody who looks at you as an enemy, but find compassion and everything settles in. Compassion
their
for
own
self.
journey.
Yeah, they're on their own journey, and let them fight themselves. I think is
that's where the struggle is, and that's where you can leave that anger with them.
Yeah.
I think that's,
allow them to fight themselves, and eventually
that's the best for them and you.
Yeah, and that you're doing them a favor, and then you're doing yourself a favor by having your inner peace. Cool. That was tight. I like that. It was everything.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Bye.
Bye.